postseason has begun in one sport. The season has began in another. This is episode 167 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, as always. And if you didn't know, I was talking about the MLB and the NHL, which we're going to have some bets to talk about. But Brett, let's take a look at how we did last episode. I took a beating. I went through a little bit of a slump this weekend, taking it easy coming into this week, but I'm feeling like this week I'm going to straighten it back out. Did get some wins on my Friday night football and the Titans rebound game, which I knew was going to happen, but otherwise a push and a bunch of other losses. But Brett, I like the futures that I have in mind, which is important to keep in mind with the -4 units I have on the year, because I have about 6.5 units in play. I count those as losses until they potentially cash. So technically, with those in play, I'm also 2 units up if you don't count those as losses yet.
All right, Higgins, not too bad. And yeah, you'll bounce back. It's ebbs and flows of sports gambling, sports wagering. But Higgins, I had a pretty funny thing happen last Thursday. My quarterback, the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, goes down in that game. I have a nice little futures bet on the Seattle Seahawks. I could not cash out quick enough, Higgins, so I sprint to the sports book, make sure I get in there, hit that cash out button before it goes away. So that Seahawks NFC West Championship bet, it was plus 270 before the season. I think that went out the window when Russell Wilson went down, so I cashed that out, Higgins. I got about $3.50 back. It was not the best start for the season for the Seahawks. Still some time left in the year. You could still play some divisional bets, I think. There will still be some movement in some of these divisions, but yeah, they probably put a fork in the Seahawks, I would say, Higgins.
But hey, for our $10 units, that's a 35% unit save in a sense. That maybe you could throw on a future of a team I was very high on, like the Cardinals, who I took at over 8.5 wins. They're now the lone undefeated team at 5-0. Might be the dark horse coming through in that NFC West, but you never know. Russ Westbrook, the broken finger, that's always detrimental to the quarterback. We'll see when he can make it back in the season. But Geno Smith coming in, I think you were wise to cash that out while you still could. But Brett, your other future is still in play with the Braves World Series. They did advance to the NLCS since the last episode. So now are you going to start potentially trying to hedge against it?
No, man, it's Jocktober, baby. We're riding this thing to the end. Would be a nice little payout for me there, Higgins. $50 on a $5 wager from March. So we'll take that.
Absolutely, we'll take that. But Brett, like I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, the NHL regular season has begun, so our Beginner's Boulevard is going to be a trip down memory lane of a term we've used a few times on this show, probably used a couple times in Beginner's Boulevard as well, but the puck line. This is hockey's version of betting the spread. Typically, it's -1.5 either side, although today, Brett, it is the second day of the NHL season. I did see some -1s on either side, so maybe as sportsbooks are opening up more, maybe we see these lines move a little bit and we can get some opportunities for some pushes like we ended up seeing in a game today that was the Toronto Maple Leafs winning 2-1 over Montreal on Wednesday night. So hockey point spread, also known as the puck line, I think of it very similarly to baseball's run line, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like, Higgins. Typically, you're always going to see the 1.5. Obviously, you're right. There could be some fluctuation there. If it's like a horrible team, maybe like Detroit or Buffalo last year, playing a great team, maybe you get that surprise 2.5. But generally speaking, 1.5. And yeah, usually there's juice one way and some plus odds the other way. So it tries to even out the heavy money line favorites in hockey by adding that goal and a half there.
And just like how I love the run line in baseball, Brett, don't I also love the puck line in hockey a little bit?
plus 1.5 plus money. I can bet I'll see you there, Higgins.
Absolutely. We don't have any of those examples in this episode. We're going to get into hockey in a minute, but let's talk about some postseason baseball, Brett. Thursday night, Red Sox Astros. That's Friday night. Thursday night's Dodgers Giants. That's the game 5 of the NLDS. Winner goes on to face the Braves, who you have that future on to be World Series champs. Dodgers Giants. This has been an interesting series. This has been the talk of baseball all season long as the Giants just emerged. We thought it was going to be Dodgers Padres. It's Giants Dodgers. This has been absolutely thrilling, and of course, it's going to come down to a game 5, right, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, Higgins, I know you have the odds at even odds out in Oregon, but just so you know what it's looking like here on the East Coast, the Giants home favorites over the Dodgers in a game 5. Julio Urias on the mound for the Dodgers, Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants. I'm excited, Higgins. Anything can happen in one game. Uh, the Dodgers one game worse than the Giants this year. That's why this game is played in San Francisco on Thursday night. So I'm really excited. I don't have a side. I thought my play going into the game, going into the week, was going to be if this gets to game 5, I think so much money is going to be on the Dodgers. I may just come in on the Giants as the home dogs. That does not appear to be happening, Higgins. So I think I may just hold off on this one.
And the money is on the Giants, at least on the money line. About 75% of that money is on San Francisco. So interesting to still see how even this is on the money line because truly, this is anybody's game. Logan Webb pitched game 1. Julio Urias pitched game 2. Both of them got wins for their ball clubs. Both very different games. Game 1 was a game that the Giants won. They were able to shut out the Dodgers. I'm not sure that that's necessarily what's going to happen in this game 5. I personally think that the Dodgers bats are going to be alive and they're going to be awoken, especially since they've seen Logan Webb so recently. So I like the Dodgers on the money line, but part of why I like that is because of the bats, and with that comes runs. And I also like the over. In Oregon, I saw it at 7 with plus 100 value, and I'm taking that plus 100 value because, Brett, I have a feeling that this is going to be like the games that the Dodgers have won. Like game 4, that was a 7-2 game. Like game 2, that was a 9-2 game. When the Dodgers bats get rolling, they really get rolling. And with a game 5 situation, we never know how quick either of these managers are going to be to pull the trigger, take out their starter, and go to the bullpens early. And you never know. That could be a good thing. It could also be a really bad thing, though, too.
Yeah, I'm just excited for the game, Higgins. I will say, the Dodgers bats. You pointed out 2 games where they swung well. Bellinger just does not look very good. Max Muncy, who is an MVP candidate, obviously out for the series. They think he could be ready for the World Series, but they have to get there first, Higgins. So those are 2 bats that this team has relied on a lot over, I don't know, the course of the last few seasons, especially last postseason, that are not in there for this one. Darren Ruff also on the IL for the Giants, excuse me. That's a big bat missing from their lineup. So some guys are going to have to step up. Tommy La Stella actually expected back for the Giants in this game 5. Maybe he provides a little spark, kind of a utility player for the Giants. So, going to be exciting to watch. I mean, these are 2 100-win teams, Higgins, in an elimination game. These are big rivals. It's essentially West Coast, Yankees, Red Sox. So, I'm all in on Thursday night baseball game 5 NLDS. You can't sell it enough to me.
Hey, I said at the beginning of the series, I didn't want to see sweeps. I wanted to see game 4s, game 5s, and we've been blessed. And with the NL West, of course, they had to bless us with a 5-game series with the Dodgers Giants. Should be fantastic. Friday, Brett, I already have lines in Oregon for the Red Sox Astros game one of the ALCS, but I don't see a reason to bet that yet. We don't have any projection of some starting pitchers, even from what I'm looking at, and it's just way too far away. I don't know why you'd be jumping on game one yet necessarily before you know pitchers and lineups. Maybe jumping on the series odds, but not game one, right?
I'm with you, Higgins. I think you could. I'm going to use a pen. I would recommend using a pencil, but I'm going to pen in Chris Sale to start game one for the Red Sox. Chris Sale looked really bad in his start against the Rays, but if you're Boston, that's the guy you want on the mound. So I think, you got to be kind of confident if you're Boston, but that last start in the postseason was not too good, Higgins.
And looking at the Oregon books right now, the Astros minus 150 favorites in the ALCS to win over the Red Sox, who are plus 130 underdogs. Brett, I wanted to also talk about maybe some golf in a little bit, but let's talk about a different sport that has some sticks that you're swinging around on the ground. Maybe a little more violent, though. That one's the NHL. That just began. I said we were going to talk about it. And Brett, Thursday we have some great games coming up. Specifically, the Islanders at the Hurricanes. Now, Carolina saw a lot of departures this year. They didn't necessarily bring in a ton of additions. I know it's always interesting to go play at Carolina. The fans have fun with it. The Hurricanes players encourage it a little bit. It's an interesting atmosphere, but the Islanders, underdogs, plus 110. I think it's going to be hard to score against this team. They got Sorkin and Varlamov both as their goalies. It's going to be hard to score against either of them, whoever's in the net. And I think this Islanders team is going to be a force to be reckoned with a little bit. I like them in this plus 110 early season underdog scenario.
Yeah, I will be backing the Islanders a lot as underdogs this year when those spots pop up, Higgins. They're, in my mind, one of the favorites to win the Stanley Cup this year. Probably put them up there with Tampa Bay, Colorado, maybe Vegas is in that conversation as well. But those are my four right up there. So I love this play. I'm staying off it strictly for the pillars. But I'm afraid that speaking how much I loved it, you probably already lost already.
Well, I appreciate you staying off of it for the sake of the pillars. I did find a second game, Brett, but since I may have taken your pick and that might be scratched as a loss already to our listeners, how about you give your pick that I wasn't even thinking of?
All right, no worries, Higgins. And anyone that's telling you, I'm sorry for their loss too. But the Kraken are gonna play their second game of the season in Nashville. Kind of what you were describing in Carolina there, Higgins. Nashville, tough place to play. Rowdy fan base, pretty good team as well. Seattle is not a team I think is going to do particularly well this year. They did not necessarily take the Golden Knights route of, kind of taking these B plus players and putting them all on their roster. They kind of took some young guys, not as many veterans. They're hoping to develop in the long term. They didn't make as many aggressive trades for these quote unquote overpaid, B level players. And I think that's going to hurt them a little bit this year. I don't think they're a bad team. They obviously have, some talent. Mark Giordano, the goalie they got as well from Florida, who I'm drawing the blank on right now, but I know he was a great goalie last year.
Grubauer.
Dryden, yeah.
Right.
And, I just think it's going to be a team that's taking their punches a little bit early in the season. They haven't played nearly as many games together as the Predators have played together. So Nashville minus 126 for their home opener, season opener. I kind of think that's a good number, Higgins. It's not too big where I'm like, oh, they're minus 150. I don't know if I want to lay that. Minus 125, I can eat that and be okay. So I'm just taking a shot here. I'm saying Seattle, they'll be okay this year. They'll be competitive in games. I wouldn't be looking to bet -1.5, but I don't know how many wins they'll be able to pull off, especially early in the season as we're getting started here.
Yeah, the fact that Seattle has to start their inaugural season with a 5-game road stretch, it's tough for morale. You would love to have that season opener in the brand new stadium with the brand new fans and everything like that. These guys haven't had that yet with this team. They haven't really seen a connection of the fans at a game yet necessarily. Maybe they did in Vegas for their season opener, but this is going to be Nashville's first game at home. They get to open at home, and I think the Predators are going to take advantage. I like the value that you found there. That game that wasn't even being offered in Oregon when I was filling out the rundown, Brett. So good find by you over on the East Coast.
That's what we do, Higgins. We got a few books over here. You can search, you can do some things. We got to get you in a different state, maybe move you to Arizona or Vegas or I don't know, any state with a few more sports books. We're moving you, Higgins.
But as we remember, once hockey season continues on a little later, Oregon gives me hockey lines days in advance, like 2, 3 days in advance. But I still have another pick for Thursday's hockey, and that's going to be the Maple Leafs traveling to face off against the Ottawa Senators. Now, the Maple Leafs, they opened at home on Wednesday night against the Montreal Canadiens, got a 2-1 win. I think they're going to go travel to Ottawa, who's not expected to be really good at all. Montreal, maybe they are. They also found out that they were going to be without Carey Price for quite a bit, though. So maybe that invigorated Montreal to play really well out the gate. I think the Toronto Maple Leafs, though, are going to be a really good team this year. Toronto, there's the curse there. I mean, the fans always seem to get disappointed. Maybe I'm going to jump on the bandwagon to get hurt with them, but I like this Toronto team. -1.5 at +135 value. I like that for a matchup that I think later on in the season we're going to see Ottawa not nearly get this favorable of puck line matchups at the books. So our beginners boulevard term is puck lines. Had to find a puck line that I like, and I think I'm going to take advantage of it. -1.5, but Toronto should be able to do it.
Yeah, I guess what kept me off this game, Higgins, is as we are speaking, the Leafs are playing the Canadians, and I think that game is going to take a lot of energy from both of these teams tonight.
It
Uh,
it
s-
officially finished.
oh, it's done.
It
Okay, great.
officially finished. Toronto won 2-1.
Toronto won 2-1. Yeah, I just kind of viewed it like that's a big game for both these teams. That's a true bad blood. We don't like the other guy. Faced them in the postseason a year ago, type of thing. And both of them having a back to back to open the season kind of scared me off a little bit, but I think you're 100% right, Higgins. I mean, if there's one team I'm betting between the Maple Leafs and the Senators, it certainly isn't Ottawa.
I mean, and the good thing is Toronto to Ottawa is a very short travel as well. I mean, it's a 4.5 hour drive, so I'm sure they could fly that in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Super quick travels for them if they want to get there tonight or tomorrow. But Brett, that's enough of the NHL. Before we jump into our moneyline magic, though, there is some golf going on this weekend. I mean, no, it's getting colder for most people. Your golf seasons may be done because a lot of our listeners like us live up north. But there's going to be some golf starting back up, specifically with the CJ Cup.
Yeah, CJ Cup is in Vegas this weekend. It's actually back to back weeks of Vegas golf, Higgins. No cut in this one. That's important to note. But there's an interesting odd boost. Justin Johnson, Justin Thomas, and Colin Morikawa to win the CJ Cup is boosted to 470 on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Higgins, why that catches my eye. Colin Morikawa is a member at the golf club this no cut tournament will be played at. And Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas are two guys I view as good enough golfers that they could have a bad Friday. They could have a bad Thursday. And I'm still not really going to count them out. They can go low, Higgins. So I'm not on this bet yet. I may place it before I go to sleep tonight or right before the tournament tees off in the morning on Thursday morning, but definitely giving me some thought. Definitely giving. I've taken a long pause, looked at it a few times today. I think it's a good bet. I mean, you're getting a guy on his home track, plus the favorite in the event, Dustin Johnson. Now we haven't seen him be a favorite in quite a bit, Higgins, but you're getting the favorite, the guy whose home track it is, and one of the best players from the Ryder Cup team. I mean, that seems like a good trio to me.
Yeah, I don't quite have that ability to place that odds boost in Oregon. I only have the one sports book. We don't have the FanDuel odds boost there, but I'm looking. There are three chance to win bets here, and I mean, I see a Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele bet potentially. There's a Morikawa, Spieth, Scheffler. I mean, but I don't have that three as a combo, to be honest. That's not a three of a combo that I have. I think that's a very advantageous trio to have as a outright champion potential. That is fantastic.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I will definitely keep all our listeners alerted if I place it. And the person I like best of those three would be Morikawa, the guy who belongs to the country club that the event is being held at. He's got a locker, probably plays there quite a bit. I'd imagine he's pretty comfortable in Vegas.
Outright, he is the has fourth best odds here in Oregon. But Brett, let's jump into Moneyline Magic, specifically take it back to Monday night. And I want to start off by asking you a question. Did you go to bed early?
No, I have Lamar Jackson on my fantasy team, so I was very into this one, Higgins.
Because some people may have gone to bed early. The Colts, their offense was going, the defense was holding Baltimore to no yardage really at all. Had Baltimore stumbling really to get any points on the board, and it was 22-3 in the third quarter. And then Lamar Jackson seemed to kind of wake up. He threw for a 43-yard touchdown pass to Hollywood Brown. They went for two, did not get it, but these 2-point conversions were very important, right, Brett?
Yeah, I mean, Higgins, you mentioned him in the second half. Lamar Jackson was unbelievable, but yeah, these 2-point conversion plays were huge. I basically Lamar had to be perfect, Higgins, and he pretty much was.
I believe he had maybe it was 3 or 4 incomplete passes in total in the second half. He threw for 2 other touchdown passes, both to Mark Andrews, converted on both of those 2-point conversions, which is why the 2-point conversions were important because they had to get to 25 points. Indianapolis was able to kick a field goal and get to 25 points themselves, but Rodrigo Blankenship apparently seemed to ended up getting hurt, was not able to kick for them near the end of the game. There were some kicks that were missed by the punter, I believe, was who was kicking for the Colts at that time, and it was just very interesting to see how quickly the Ravens were able to just take this over because of how confident. When Lamar Jackson is feeling good and he's feeling confident in his rhythm, he's virtually unstoppable.
Yeah, Higgins, there are some interesting talking points regarding the MVP this year. And I definitely think Kyler Murray has put his name in that conversation. I absolutely think Lamar Jackson has put his name in the conversation. He might even be the guy, a lot of people are running to the books this week to bet on because he's still down there at plus 1200. But I got to be honest with you, Higgins. Justin Herbert, of all these quarterbacks, he's the guy that is standing out to me. And he's plus 600 on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now to win MVP. I don't know if I think it's like a lock that he's like, $600 more certain to win MVP than Lamar Jackson. But that's my guy who I just wanted to shout him out because we've shouted out Lamar, we've shouted out Kyler. Herbert has been balling, and I know he's a Duck, so you like him a little bit as well, Higgins.
I do like Herbert. I had been hoping that the Giants were going to draft him instead of Daniel Jones before Herbert decided to go back to college for his senior year. Out here in Oregon, though, it's Josh Allen is the odds favorite to win the MVP, shortly followed by Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, and then Lamar Jackson at plus 1,000 here in Oregon. But it's interesting. I think there's still plenty of names that can get into that contention for the MVP. Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson, they seem to be the most electrifying. I love what I saw from Josh Allen, though, against Kansas City. Maybe it's easy to look good against Kansas City's defense, though, this year. They've had a few more losses than people were expecting. Brett, before we jump into our actual football picks, though, today's episode is brought to you by DB. DB is a Scandinavian brand that makes backpacks and bags to help people on the move stay ready for anything. From the streets to the peaks, DB's gear is travel tested by some of the world's best athletes, adventurers, and creators. Over the past decade, DB has designed and developed, released, and refined the best bags in the market. With DB's patented hookup system, you are able to attach smaller products to your backpacks, roller, or tote. I can't stress enough how important it is to find the right luggage for every travel scenario. We are teaming up with DB to exclusively offer our listeners 10% off your next purchase by using the code POD10 or going to the link in our show's description. DB, it's time to move on, time to get going. Brett, college football last weekend, it was an interesting one. Once again, like every weekend it seems, college football is filled with surprises this year. I did okay, specifically on Friday night with my Arizona State pick, but my Michigan pick, it depends when you listen to the episode, I would like to specify, because that line did very soon turn to a -2.5, and if you took that, Michigan did win. The under that I picked did not hit, but Michigan -2.5, that did win. The -3.5 pick that I had, not quite. But Brett, I have a feeling that there is a game of revenge in the SEC going on this week because Alabama lost last week. And I would not want to be whoever is facing them this week because I think they're going to run up the score and play a full 4 quarters and do it with a certain level of aggression and intent to make sure they get a win. So even though they're traveling to Mississippi State, which is Mike Leach, and the air raid offense, which is fine, and saying, go ahead and score some points. We'll go and score some points as well. I don't know if Mississippi State can score some points against this Alabama defense when they're this mad. And -17.5, that's not going to scare me away from this line at all, to be honest. So Bama -17.5, I'm jumping all over this line, Brett.
Yeah, I think that's the side to be on as well, Higgins. I guess, you know, what gives me some pause just looking at the other side, playing devil's advocate. Can you write the narrative that Mississippi State covers? Yeah, I could write that narrative. Maybe Bryce Young isn't as good as we thought. Maybe, you know, you bring in years and years and years of 5-star recruits. Maybe one recruiting class just isn't as good as all the other years, and that's this year, you know? So there's some possibility that Mississippi State keeps this close, Higgins, but I'm with you 110% on this one. If I'm betting this game, there's one side I'm on, and it's Alabama. I could even see Alabama hitting over 57 all by themselves, getting all the way to like 55 in this one. And, maybe Mississippi State gets that field goal over for us.
Well, let's keep it in Alabama as well because I don't want to just say Roll Tide. I also want to say War Eagle because Auburn's traveling to Arkansas, Brett, and that's going to be an interesting game as well. I don't know if you saw the Arkansas Ole Miss game that was 52-51. Arkansas lost their second game in a row. They're still ranked at 4-2. Auburn's not. Auburn might take that as a shot of disrespect. I like what I've seen a little bit out of Bo Nix, at least in terms of his fight and not being willing to give up on a score. So plus 4.5. Maybe Auburn doesn't win this game, but maybe it's only a field goal. I like the plus 4.5 here, so I'm gonna be riding with the Auburn Tigers as well.
Yeah, I think the dip we've seen in Arkansas has more to do with their quarterback's health, KJ Jefferson. He got injured a few games ago. He's played through it, but has not looked the same as the first four games of the year. I still think Sam Pittman is on his way to getting his Coach of the Year award. So I cannot be on the same side as you here, Higgins. But to be fair, I'm not betting this one. So I am going to be heavily rooting for you. Go Tigers, War Eagle, all of it. I actually saw a very funny tweet. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago now at this point when BC played Clemson. And the tweet was, Auburn fans must be so confused having to choose between an eagle and a tiger when you can have both. So I thought that was pretty funny, and I just thought I'd mention it here since we were talking about Auburn.
I like that. Yeah, I'm gonna be on Auburn. I'm gonna be on Bama. Maybe I just make it an Alabama, the state of Alabama parlay, and I also throw something on them together. I'm not gonna do that on
Oh,
this
come on, get
podcast
Troy
here.
in there. Don't
But
leave out
yeah,
Troy. Don't
that's what
leave
I'm
out
saying. Maybe I'm
Troy.
going to do some more research on some other Alabama schools, see what those lines are at. Maybe we'll
Come
make
on,
an Alabama
Troy.
parlay. But Brett, last thing I'll say about this is Arkansas's defense. They've done a lot of running the past 2 weeks. I mean, they gave up 37 points to Georgia, 52 points to Ole Miss. Maybe that's just their new narrative, and they're fine with running it around a lot. And that's, I mean, I'm looking at that, and that's just you look at the Ole Miss Tennessee over under. That thing's huge. 82.5. That's the biggest I've seen this season. I understand Ole Miss scored 52 points last week, but is it because Arkansas's defense has just been ran around and ran to death, or is it because Ole Miss's offense can really do that much work?
Well, I think it's a lot of this is about Ole Miss and Tennessee. Ole Miss isn't going to stop anyone, and they're going to score a lot. Tennessee has gone to Virginia Tech transfer Hayden Hooker over their last few games, and their offense is much improved. Actually, it's so improved. Hayden Hooker has basically done at Tennessee what Virginia Tech has done on offense all year. So, that's going to help having him as the dual threat guy. And I don't think Ole Miss will be tackling too well, but 82.5, no, sir. You will not catch me anywhere near that. I will say this, Higgins. I was maybe thinking about Tennessee plus 2.5 at home. I do not like backing the Volunteers. They're a team program that I would say since T. Martin has just let you down game in and game out. So unless T. Martin and Philip Fulmer and Eric Berry and Peyton Manning are coming out that tunnel, Jamal Lewis, I don't think I'll be backing the Vols, but the plus 2.5 minus 104, that's the side I'm looking at. If something comes over me on Saturday morning and I happen to bet it, I'm sure that's where I'll be.
Listen, both these offenses average over 40 points per game. The over 82.5 may be possible. I can't ever talk myself into taking an over 80 position before a game's even started. Maybe in a live scenario, maybe. That's a strong maybe. But I mean, any given day, these offenses could just have a bad day and only put up 20 points.
Yeah.
And like that's
Yeah,
what's terrifying.
35-35 doesn't get it done here, Higgins.
No, it does not. No, it does not. And that's what's hard is if one of these teams just has a bad offensive day, the other team's heavy lifting is just that much greater when that over under is all the way at 82.5. The only spot I could recommend someone to be on is that under, but I can't even do that when both these offenses average 46 and 41 points per game. Like, no. No, I can't. It was just a comical line I had to bring up though.
Yeah, definitely an interesting line. One bet I do have for Saturday, BYU takes on Baylor. BYU coming off their loss last week at Boise State. Didn't look so great. Baylor been kind of up and down this year. I'm not a big believer in the Baylor Bears this year. So give me BYU plus 6.5 on the road, Higgins. Jaron Hall really good player for BYU. He's the quarterback that took over for Zach Wilson. Looks good. BYU's looked good the vast majority of the year outside of last week. So I think they can bounce back here.
Yeah, this line to me like screamed trap game when I was looking at college football lines. To be honest, like I was gonna stay away before I even saw that you were on it, and for the pillars I had to stay away because I'm just looking at it. It's like BYU's the ranked team. I understand both these teams are 5-1, but BYU coming off a loss should be focused, like you said. Baylor, their loss was to a ranked Oklahoma State team, so it's a credible loss, but it's still a loss. And I don't know if this is a full touchdown spread game. That was ringing alarms to me as well, but I couldn't convince myself to jump into this potential trap. I talked myself into a few last week, and like what I said, Michigan minus 3.5. Maybe it was a trap. It was a trap. I should have waited for it to be minus 2.5, but I think
Yeah,
you're
we
grabbing
were
this
we
on the
were
right
all
side.
over that. You and I were all over that Michigan line, smelling a little fishy there.
Absolutely. Maybe the BYU moves to a full 7, but grab the 6.5. Just grab the 6.5, right?
Yeah, no reason for it to move the other way, right? So just take more than a touchdown. College kickers, you never know. My favorite thing in sports.
Absolutely. Let's jump into the NFL though, which looks like it's going to be a very interesting week, Brett. I mean, we have some standings that are starting to shape up. The NFC East, for example, the Cowboys, Dak Prescott, he's on that list of MVP potential that we were talking about earlier. Is that team going to be okay, though? Zeke looks like he's going to be able to play again. This NFL season's very interesting. I love this Cardinals team. And Brett, I'm going to be on them this week. They're traveling to Cleveland and plus 150 on the money line. I think the Cardinals are going to continue their uh, unbeaten streak and go to 6-0. Now, the Cardinals rush defense may not be the strongest, and that may be what's really rolling for Cleveland right now with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. But I'm taking Kyler Murray over Baker Mayfield, just like how last week Justin Herbert won in the shootout against Baker Mayfield. I'm not sure if Baker Mayfield is going to keep up with these younger guys that are year two his junior and are already showing a lot more success in this league than potentially he has. I like Baker, but his passing offense this year, it's been rather underwhelming, to be honest. So the Cardinals going into Cleveland, I like what I've seen from that offense and defense, and I expect them to win. So plus 150 on the money line, I'm going to take that. They're also plus 3 right now on the spread, but I'm just going to stay on the money line right now.
All right, I like it, Higgins. The Vikings are taking on the Panthers. They're actually traveling to Carolina, if I'm reading this correctly. And Carolina is a 1.5 point dog in Oregon right now, Higgins. You cannot tell me that Carolina is any worse than the Minnesota Vikings. I think this will be a close game. I think I'd probably be on the team getting the points in this one no matter what. I just happen to get the home team with points in this one. With the offensive coordinator, I truly believe in Joe Brady. A quarterback who I hope will bounce back this week after a tough outing in Dallas last week. Sam Darnold. And DJ Moore, who is having an unbelievable season, Higgins. Not to take anything away from the Minnesota wide receivers, who probably even have a better wide receiver room than Carolina. But DJ Moore has been fantastic. The play calling has been creative. We've seen Tommy Tremble, the rookie tight end, get handoffs. We've seen, a lot of interesting plays. 50-50 shot. McCaffrey comes back. That's something that can move the line as well. So I like Minnesota without I'm sorry. I like Carolina without McCaffrey. We don't have full word that Dalvin Cook's playing in this one yet either. So I'm gonna bet this one early before there's a lot of line movement as information comes out. I'm just gonna take Carolina with the points. And I also think if McCaffrey's playing, we could see this at an even money game, Higgins.
Okay. Yeah, if he plays this week, that absolutely could be a pick'em game. I agree with that. That should be a very interesting injury report or game time decision that some people should be watching with that line. I'm going to be sticking with a different NFC North game, Brett. That's our relationship or transition from your pick into mine because Detroit, after just hosting the Vikings, they are now hosting the Cincinnati Bengals, and Detroit has had a rough start to their season. They haven't looked awful on their offensive side of the ball with Jared Goff, but there is a lot wrong with that Detroit Lions team beyond just their quarterback position. Matt Stafford was not the issue. But Cincinnati Bengals have figured out that Joe Burrow, maybe he did actually just need his LSU wide receiver Jamar Chase. They have had an outstanding connection this season, and I think they are actually playing rather well together. The line maybe shouldn't have to be really worried about as much in Detroit necessarily, but that line is still an issue that I would be cautious about with Cincinnati long term. But -3.5 in Detroit, I think Cincinnati's going to come in. They're going to get another big win here. And I really think that Cincinnati, who's only 2-3 against the spread this year, I think they're going to actually kind of start to swing that around. They're going to get some better respect. They're going to get some bigger wins, and who knows what this young team could do.
Yeah, I don't have a great read on that one. I think Detroit's been pretty competitive this year. Probably could have even won last week. Probably could have beaten Baltimore. Now, none of those bounces have gone their way, Higgins. So, to your point, you might as well just keep betting the trend. Detroit's going to keep losing. But I do not have a great feel for that one. I think you're right, though. Cincinnati's been really good. Obviously, played Green Bay very tough at home last week. Road game this week. Not sure it's a huge factor in this one. It's a dome stadium, so kind of neutral, especially when you're playing a bad team. It's not going to be that rowdy. But one game that I think will be pretty rowdy, Higgins, the Dallas Cowboys travel to New England. This line makes no sense. So I am going all in on New England because if you asked me what this line would have come out on, Higgins, I would have guessed Dallas -7. It's Dallas -3.5. That honestly probably really points to me that the books think New England's winning this game and they just can't make New England the favorites. I saw this play out on Thursday or Sunday night when Tampa came up to New England. It was gross out. Tom Brady didn't look great. Bill Belichick had the scheme to stop him. And, it's a 2-point game there. I see another game between New England and Miami opening week of the season. All the quarterbacks look ugly in that one. It's a 1-point game. New England's not this team that's going to win a ton of football games, Higgins, but they're going to make you work to get out of there with a dub. And I think, this stays within a field goal for sure.
I think the major factor to watch is Ezekiel Elliott, who's listed as questionable in this game. Now, a lot of the narrative that at least I've heard over the past couple of days has been positive that he's going to play. But what if he doesn't? And then maybe the Patriots actually are only +3.5 point underdogs in this game and it's a field goal game. Maybe the Patriots get some of their defensive players in position to be able to play that are listed as questionable right now, like Van Noy or Jonathan Jones or Duggar or anyone like that. So who knows? I think the injury report for this matchup could be very key because Dallas, they're 5-0 against the spread so far this season. New England, they're only 2-3.
Yeah, I think you raised some good points. Dallas being 5-0 against the spread. That's great information for all our listeners. This one is going New England. I might even take New England outright. This line makes no sense. I mean, Higgins, I'm telling you, you asked me last Sunday Dallas plays New England next week. You think they give Dallas a touchdown? Oh yeah, I think it's probably 7.5, maybe even 8.5. but
Yeah.
but his line came out at 3.5. Higgins, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, well, I'm betting New England this week.
Something fishy is in the air. I agree there. Brett, before we get out of here, Levy Lock, pick of the pod. We both lost ours last week, I believe. I think you should take the honors. I think we got to break a spell.
All right, Higgins. Well, I'll hop back into college football. BYU travels to Baylor. I'm just not a believer in the Baylor Bears. I'm sorry, Higgins. I'm not, I don't know why I'm apologizing to you. I'm sorry, Baylor. But I think BYU borderline top 25 team. They have some good players. This is a team that just feels a little bit better about themselves, probably because of how they played last year. They also won their in-state rivalry game against a preseason ranked Utah team to start the year. So, like, you know, they've beaten some people. They can beat their chest a little bit. They've had some success. I just think they won't be too intimidated by the environment. I think they're probably a slightly better football team than Baylor. So 6.5 point dogs. I think they'll definitely cover. Could even win the game, but I'll just take them to cover.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about my pick because my pick of the pod is also in college football. And like I said in our segment, Alabama coming off of a loss. Whoever they face needs to be terrified because Alabama is going to be laser focused and playing for 4 full quarters, making sure that it's not even a competition by the fourth quarter, but they're still probably going to keep running up the score. Alabama minus 17 and a half, minus 17, minus 18, whatever you're finding it at when you're listening to this podcast. Alabama's going to demolish Mississippi State. So I am all over this spread here, Brett. I'm probably putting at least 2 units on it right now. That's what I'm placing right now. We'll see where that line is as of Saturday.
Higgins, my guy LeVar Ball released his new Big Baller shoes. You released the Big Baller bet. What a week for Big Ballers.
I saw the big baller shoes that are leisure, high fashion. It looks like they're all leather based. They're interesting.
The ones that say I told you so, I expect you to be wearing those on the next episode after Alabama covers this 17.5.
Maybe we'll see how long the shipping takes with their shoes this time around. Make sure to follow us on social media. We'll be posting some pics between now and our next episode at NBB Pod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 167 of the Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys again soon.